Can you keep a secret? Usually when I talk about self-disclosure, I have students think about self-disclosure as secret telling. Well, that's almost right, but not completely. Every single person has self-disclosed something about themselves at some point in time. So you probably have more awareness of what self-disclosure is, but may not really know a true definition for it at this moment. So in this video, we'll talk about what is self-disclosure. Then we'll talk about how to appropriately self-disclose, as well as some risk. And for all of those who don't like self-disclosing that often, we'll even talk about ways to manage your privacy. So let's get started. Self-disclosure is defined as voluntarily sharing information about ourselves. Keep in mind, you have to volunteer your information. If someone exposes a secret, guess what? You did not self-disclose. That person told your information. So that's not true self-disclosure if someone reveals your information. Additionally, if you tell information that's not about you, that's not self-disclosing. You're not sharing yourself with other people. You're sharing somebody else with other people. So again, voluntarily sharing information about ourselves is what self-disclosure truly is. And it's going to be information that is not likely known. So if you can see someone and say, oh, well, he has dark hair and he has blonde hair, that's readily available as long as that person can see their hair. So it's not true self-disclosure. But you could say, well, my favorite color is green. That's something you would not readily know. Therefore, it is true self-disclosure. Self-disclosure builds relationships. The friends that you've made over time, you've made them because very slowly over time, you've got to know a little bit more about who they are. They self-disclose to you, and you self-disclose back. And usually, some type of catharsis is gained. If you've never seen the word catharsis before, it talks about relief. Sometimes, when you have a big secret, it just feels good to get it out there. If you're worried about how someone feels about you, and then you say that thing that you thought they may feel a little iffy about, and they're okay, you have that relief. You have that catharsis. Now, when it comes to true self-disclosure, you have to also think about, well, what's appropriate. So make sure that you proceed gradually. I always shape it like this. Don't reveal everything on the first date. Yes, let people know what they need to know, but also be aware that you don't need to share your entire life story day one. There are people like that. I understand, but appropriate self-disclosure will proceed gradually. Also remember to be reciprocal. If you're sharing and that person isn't sharing back, they aren't being reciprocal. That may be an indicator that they feel maybe a little bit more introverted than you, or maybe they just don't want to share. So I always say kind of measure your self-disclosure against the other person's self-disclosure. If they're revealing small things like favorite colors and favorite foods, this is not the time to reveal your deep, dark secret. Build up to that. Proceed gradually. In fact, you want to wait to reveal negative information. Again, keeping in mind that if they need to know that negative information, let them know. But don't just say, hey, the worst thing that I've ever done in life is ... In general, you want to wait till you've gotten to know this person. I say maybe date 3 if you're going with a romantic relationship, to start revealing a little bit more of that negative information. And then also consider the context. So if you were in a situation, for example, therapy, you're going to self-disclose a lot more in therapy, even with someone you just met, just because that's the context. or if anyone's ever been to a support group of some kind. People are sharing. In that context, you need to share as well. So be aware of that. But keep in mind that just because you shared some great information about yourself or something super personal, it does not signal an intimate relationship. It does not mean that you're closer to this person. There have been times I openly shared some information with a friend because they asked, and I thought, oh, we're so much closer now. They really care about me and they know who I am as a person. But we weren't that close. So be mindful of that. Also be mindful of the fact that inappropriate or even too much information can undermine intimacy. So sharing every negative thing you've done under the sun may make people feel awkward. And then also remember that it's easier to disclose online. Social media has changed the social space in so many ways, and this is one of them. It's easier to disclose things online because you don't always have a face to give you that emotional feedback response that we're so used to. Usually, when you share something negative or something that could be painful or hurtful, even about yourself, you can kind of judge, okay, I need to pull back just a little bit because this person seems uncomfortable. In an online environment, you don't always have that. So people just self-disclose very, very easily. Now, as you're starting to self-disclose and think about all these different factors, also think about the fact that self-disclosure can be harmful. It can be risky, unwise, or even insensitive. You've probably heard some stories about people who've come out, either as related to their sexual orientation or their gender identity, and it's caused them pain because they came out to someone who was not responsive or someone who felt differently than they did. And because of that, that self-disclosure was harmful. Or maybe you've been in a situation where you've shared some information to the wrong friend and they went out and shared it with everybody else. And it was your personal, deep secret that you didn't want the entire world to know. And that became risky. Also be mindful of the fact that disclosure is culturally regulated. So when you're self-disclosing, also think about, well, what cultural background is this person as compared to my cultural background? In the US of A, there's a lot of self-disclosure. It's encouraged as a part of society. But from what I've read and what I've talked to with friends here and there, some Asian cultures don't self-disclose in a similar way. There could be certain aspects that, yes, we share this information, but nothing that would be seen as a negative. So you may not say, well, I'm really bad at ... Also be mindful of the fact that we must be careful when we stereotype people, especially by gender. There's this assumption that women will self-disclose and share a lot more personal things, and men are going to hold things back. Be mindful of those social stereotypes. Yes, they're stereotypes for a reason, but again, not every single male, not every single female is going to fall into that same gender stereotype. Okay, so we've thought about all these things, we've considered them, but what about the times when we want to manage our privacy? If you're thinking, yeah, I self-disclose here and there, but I also want to keep some things to myself, realize that you only need to disclose when it's desired or needed. You don't have to share personal information about yourself if you don't want to. Now, if you are in a situation where someone is sharing information and wants you to be reciprocal, you may be able to pick up on it. Identify why you are not sharing. I had a student a few years back, and he said, Ms. Armstrong, I kind of clammed up during class today because a situation happened where someone revealed a secret. And I learned very quickly that I shouldn't share personal information about myself if I want to protect it. In that instant, I said, okay, I perfectly understand. Keep in mind that he also did an I-centered message to establish his boundary of identifying why he wasn't sharing information. It's not saying, you always want to ask for personal information, or you're so nosy. It was, I don't feel like sharing because I've been hurt before. That kept the focus on him and made me understand why he was establishing that boundary. So I hope now that you have a better understanding of what self-disclosure is, how to do it appropriately, what are some of the risks involved, and how to manage your privacy when you don't feel like self-disclosing. So keep all these things in mind the next time someone leans in and says, "Can you keep a secret?"